Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. It continues. The misery of watching the 2022 Philadelphia 76ers continues. Are we even watching this because we think this team can be good anymore, or are we just watching this for sheer entertainment? Are we just watching this to laugh at how backwards this has gone compared to what we thought it was going to look like? Now, of course, yes, we're playing without James Harden. But a professional basketball team should not look this disconnected, uninterested, confused, random. An NBA basketball team should not look this confused, random, miscommunicated, disconnected, uninterested. It shouldn't look like this. It absolutely should not look like this. The lack of... What the hell was that? Hold on, my dog's barking. I'll be right back. It's gonna be good. You're just gonna want... Animals, man. Animals. Can't get anything done around here. All right, listen, before we get started, I want to let you guys know we are about to be back on podcast platforms. So be on the lookout for that on Apple Music and Spotify and all other podcast platforms. We're going to be there in audio form if you like to listen to these depressing rants after Sixers games while you're driving, while you're working out. Do not. I don't know why I said that. Do not listen to this while you're working out. You will purposely drop a barbell on your face to put yourself out of your misery. But yeah, we're going to be back on podcast platforms. And I'm not doing a play breakdown of this game on the Patreon, but there will be an exclusive video tomorrow morning posted on the Patreon, patreon.com/runitbackphilly. Thank you to everyone that has signed up for that so far. Check out the merch store. That's all I got to say. Let's get right down to business. The Philadelphia 76ers lose to the Atlanta Hawks 104-95. The score says it was a 9-point game, but let's be totally honest. They lost by 40. All right, let's call it what it is. They lost by 40. Okay? They lost 104-95, but the Philadelphia 76ers lost this game by 40 points. You're not going to lie to me. You're not going to sit up here and lie to me and tell me this was a 9-point game. This was a 40-point game. That's where I want to start. Okay? The first half was some of the worst basketball I've ever seen in my entire life from both teams. But, Sixers reporters were tweeting in a positive light. They were saying, hey, the Sixers are shooting 2 for 9,000 from 3, and we're only down by 6 points. And I retweeted Kyle Carlin. Shout out to him. I'm not slandering him by any means, but I know Sixers reporters have to try to remain positive. I retweeted him and I said, switch this around, okay? The Atlanta Hawks are having their worst shooting night of their season. I would bet the Atlanta Hawks are having one of their worst shooting nights of the past 5 years, and they're still beating the Philadelphia 76ers. That says something. At one point in this game in the first quarter, the Atlanta Hawks, midway through the second quarter, I did the math, the Atlanta Hawks were on pace to score 84 points in this entire game, and we were still losing. So they were having a horrendous game, and we were actually having an even worse game than that. This was so bad. But I want to jump right down to the nitty-gritty. All right. I want to jump right down to the nitty-gritty, where this game ended. This game, and you know, it was close in the first quarter. It was like 0-0 forever. Realistically, it was like, 20-18 at the end of the first. I felt like both teams were playing terribly and not shooting well. They were combined 4 for 40-something from 3 or something like that. But my girlfriend actually said to me, "Oh, is this going to be back and forth the whole game?" You know what I mean? Do you ever watch a game where you can just tell, no. That team's just playing really, really bad right now, and they're going to start playing better, and this team's going to lose by a lot. Do you ever feel like that when you're watching the beginning of a game? You can just see it. You can just feel that energy. So it was close in the beginning, and she said, "Is this going to be a back and forth kind of game?" And I said, "Nah, the Atlanta Hawks are going to run away with this one about around the end of the third quarter." And I had a tweet before the game started. Earlier in the day, I had a tweet, and I also posted it on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram or Twitter, what are you really doing with your life? And I said, the Atlanta Hawks, parentheses, young and fast, parentheses, are 7th in the NBA in points per game and 7th in the NBA in rebounding. I said the Philadelphia 76ers, parentheses, old and slow, parentheses, are 24th in the NBA in points per game and 29th in the NBA in rebounding. This is not going to be a close game. We got lucky that the Atlanta Hawks shot 30% from the floor. What'd they shoot from 3? 20%. They shot 44% from the floor and 23% from 3. So we got lucky. That's the only reason this game was close through 3 quarters. So I didn't look at it in a positive light. I didn't look at it like, oh, the Sixers are shooting bad and they're only down by 5. No, the Atlanta Hawks were shooting worse than I've ever seen a team shoot, and they were up by 5. That's how bad we were in this game. We shot 38% from the floor and 20% from 3. But this game ended, the nail in the coffin, once again, was Doc Rivers. At the end of the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, Joel Embiid picked up his 4th personal foul. And I said that means they're gonna sit him until halfway through the 4th, because you don't want him to get it 5. You don't want him to foul out. They left him in for a couple more plays, and then Doc Rivers took him out. And I'm not here to say Paul Reed was good in this game by any means, any stretch of the imagination. Paul Reed had 4 fouls in what felt like 4 seconds. But Doc Rivers took Joel Embiid out of the game. Now there's a fire truck. I'm trying to do a YouTube show. Can you have a fire some other time? Anyway, Joel Embiid got his 4th foul about midway through the third quarter. And they took him out of the game, as they should have. But once again, Doc Rivers went with Georges Niang at center in an NBA basketball game. Doc Rivers went with Georges Niang to pronounce it in his father's native language, Georges Niang. Doc Rivers went with Georges Niang at center in an NBA game against Clint Capella at the end of the third quarter, and they got absolutely smoked. They got absolutely smoked when he did that. And he did that in the Spurs game, and he did that in that Toronto game that we didn't compete in. And I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. I want to look at I can't figure it out. I remember the game where I was like, it's not about like, yo, you have to play Paul Reed or you have to play Montrezl Harrell. But why in the world is Montrezl Harrell only getting 3 minutes in a basketball game? Paul Reed's only getting 9 minutes. So you got 12 minutes of Paul Reed and Montrezl Harrell. And I know Doc can't figure out the balance. But that means there was 8 minutes. Joel played 31. So there was an 8-minute stretch where you didn't have Joel Embiid, Paul Reed, or Montrezl Harrell on the floor. You had an 8-minute stretch where you did not play a center. And I'm not saying Montrezl Harrell can defend anybody in the paint because he can't, but he can rebound. You had an 8-minute stretch where you did not play a center against Clint Capella. The game was over at that point. That's where the game ended. They went on a run and they made it a 20-point game, and it was over. It's time to cut ties, man. It's time to cut ties. This team looks completely lost. The coach looks completely lost in who to play, when to play him, why to play him, who to play him with. It just looks ridiculous. This looks ridiculous. I want to say this too. Doc Rivers throws in the white flag, down by 18 with 4 minutes left? Throws in the towel. Doc's throw in the towel lineup was better than his starting lineup. Montrezl Harrell comes in the game, starts clawing, climbing like a cat up the side of a mountain, fighting every single possession, every single play. Montrezl Harrell was the only player on this entire roster showing any fire. I didn't see any fire, and I haven't seen any fire from this team in a long time. I didn't see any fire from this team this entire game until Montrezl Harrell came in the game with 4 minutes left. And he starts fighting for offensive rebounds, diving on the floor, hustling, picking up Trae Young at half court, forcing turnovers. Why does one guy have all of that fight and effort inside of him and nobody else does? Why? But the deep bench made a run. And the deep bench playing better than your starters tells me everything I need to know about this coach's lineups. You need a new voice, you need a new decision maker, and your lineups need to change. You played George Niang and PJ Tucker at the 4 and the 5 at the end of the third quarter against Clint Capella and get smoked. You play all the old slow guys all the time. And then the game's out of reach, and you put in Matisse Thybulle, Paul Reed, Montrezl Harrell. You put in all the athletes, and they make a run. Wow. Here we are again. This guy does not realize you need young, athletic players on the floor in the NBA. He doesn't get it. So they make that run. They cut it down to 8 points, all on the back of Montrezl Harrell. And I'm not saying they were going to win the game. I don't think they were going to win the game. They cut it down to 8 points because of the sheer effort and fight from Montrezl Harrell when he came in the game. And this coach actually put the starters back in the game with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. He put the starters, who played an absolutely pathetic basketball game, he put the starters back in the game with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Why did he do that? They didn't deserve to be on the floor. Are you kidding me? They did not deserve to be on the floor. The lack of effort, heart, hustle, fire, and everything that those starters showed for 3.5 quarters, they did not deserve to come back out on the floor. Your bench came in, gave you fight, gave you effort, cut it to 8 points. They weren't going to win, but they deserved to stay out there for the rest of that game. You should have left the starters on the bench to send a message. But this coach rewarded them by putting them back in the game. What's wrong with this dude, man? Who does that? Who throws in the white towel, the bench makes a run and cuts it to 8 points, and you put the starters back in the game who didn't give you anything for 3.5 quarters? Who does that? I am blown away. I can't. Right when I think this guy can't surprise me, right when I think this guy can't shock me any more than he does, I'm blown away. Jordan, thank you for the super chat. We look like we're playing YMCA basketball without James Harden. Exactly. And why is that? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because James Harden is an on-the-court coach. When James Harden, and I said this last year, I said Tyrese Maxey's game went from this to this as soon as James Harden came in there and started yelling at him to go hard to the rim and started telling him how good he is and how unstoppable he is as a scorer going to the rim. James Harden got more out of Tyrese Maxey in 2 months last year than Doc Rivers did in 2 years. And James Harden, the first 4 games he was in a Sixers uniform, changed what the entire offense looked like last season. He didn't know any plays. He was just out there balling. And the team looked better in those 4 games than they have the entire Doc Rivers tenure. And then Doc implemented his offense and tried to implement his strategy, and it all went downhill. Then we have an entire offseason, and we start this season, and this is what we look like. And the only reason it worked, the only reason this randomness, this not running plays, this, I don't even think this team practices, the only reason it worked was because of James Harden's genius on the court. James Harden's half-court facilitating prowess. That's the only reason it worked. So the fact that it looks this bad, disorganized, and ridiculous without James Harden tells me the coach is doing nothing. So it is time to cut ties. It has to be time, bro. How do we continue this? How do we keep doing this? We're actually going to go back to practice tomorrow with 61-year-old Doc Rivers and try again? Really? I thought Joel Embiid... There was my Doc Rivers rant for the night. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I thought Joel Embiid had a good game. 26 points, 9 for 18 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. He had 13 rebounds. 0 offensive rebounds is a big problem for me. But, Joel seemed to be the only one on the team that could do anything. I have an issue, though. My issue is that they don't run sets. The ball sticks way too much. I completely agree with that, Eric Mallory. My issue is that multiple times in this game, I saw the offense being initiated through Joel Embiid outside the three-point line. And I'm like, how many years are we going to do this? How many years are we going to do this? How many years does the entire city have to scream, get under the rim? How many years does the entire city and fan base have to scream, get this guy under the rim? He's a center. How many years do we have to scream this? Why am I seeing so many designed sets where your 7'2", turnover-prone center is catching the ball outside the three-point line and trying to dribble it why are we running dribble handoffs with Joel Embiid outside the three-point line? It's a turnover waiting to happen. I saw it so many times this game. Joel had 7 turnovers. 7. And that's because he caught the ball outside the three-point line and tried to initiate the offense 7 times. Why are we doing this? What is this game plan? The other night, we ran plenty of pick and rolls and pick and pops with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, DeAnthony Melton, Joel Embiid. Now, all of a sudden, we're trying to initiate the offense with Joel outside the three-point line. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. Tyrese Maxey has his third bad shooting night in a row. Just so happens James Harden. Is this the third game without James Harden? This might be the third game without James Harden. He has his third bad shooting night in a row. And yeah, I've said this plenty of times. I said this last year. Love Tyrese Maxey. But anybody that thinks Tyrese Maxey is a point guard is out of their damn minds. Tyrese Maxey is clearly a two guard. Tyrese Maxey is clearly a very good two guard. Tyrese Maxey needs a point guard. Tyrese Maxey needs a James Harden on the floor. And superhero, I think you said in the chat right when this show started, a big problem is we don't have a backup point guard. A real backup point guard. And you're absolutely right. James Harden's the only point guard on the team. So we can rant and rave about Doc Rivers all we want. We can say fire Doc Rivers. This roster construction is terrible. And Romp was right. Again, Romp was right. Every time something happens and Daryl Morey signs somebody and Romp tells us all, this is bad, this is not good, this roster is not as good as everyone thinks it is, Daryl Morey's overrated, on and on and on. Every time Romp goes on those rants before the season starts and we all call him a hater or call him, why are you so negative? He ends up being right. I got to give Romp credit, man. He's right. This is not a good roster. There's no speed outside of Tyrese Maxey. There's no elite three-point shooters. Who? Name one on the team. Who's a sniper on the team? Who's a Kevin Huerter? You know? Who's a Joe Harris? Who's a... I don't know. Name another one. There's none on the squad. You don't have a traditional facilitating point guard outside of James Harden. You don't have a backup center. And this one's on Doc because Daryl drafted a backup center. And Daryl Morey should be as upset about this as I am. Daryl Morey drafted Charles Bassey. Charles Bassey was the most NBA ready player in that almost died. Most NBA ready player in that draft. He's 6'10", he's 250 pounds. He can block shots, he can rebound. He has skill around the rim. Doc Rivers says, nah, we're not playing Charles Bassey ever. Never playing him. Dan Burke played him 2 games in a row. He had 12 rebounds and 5 blocks against the Denver Nuggets in November 2021. Doc Rivers came back from COVID and said, no, we're not playing that guy. Not a backup center. Why would I do that when I can play PJ Tucker at backup center? Why would I do that when I can play George Niang at backup center? Why would I play Charles Bassey? So they cut Charles Bassey. You can't write a story better than this. You can't write a story better than this. They cut Charles Bassey because Doc Rivers, who thinks he's a genius and thinks he's on the level of Greg Popovich, doesn't want to play Charles Bassey. Greg Popovich, the actual Greg Popovich, the real one, verified, check mark, and the official under his name. You know, he paid $8 for the check, and he has the official. The actual Greg Popovich signs Charles Bassey and plays it. Last night, Charles Bassey had 10.6 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block in 12 minutes off the bench. And Doc Rivers thinks, I don't need that backup center. I got George Niang, bruh. I got PJ Tucker. I can go small ball against the Raptors. I can go small ball against Clint Capella. You idiot. We were just ranting and raving about Tobias Harris a couple days ago. And I said, and I was being negative. I wasn't giving him, I wasn't ready to jump on the Tobias Harris train. I was saying, I'm not sold. All right, he's playing a decent fourth man role when James Harden's in here. He's quick trigger catching and shooting. He's shooting 44% from three. But when you really play young, athletic teams with length on the perimeter, AKA, who's the Hawks 4? Who's the Hawks stretch 4, man? Dude that dunked on Joel Embiid in the playoffs and put him on a t-shirt. His name's escaping me right now. Anyway, he was guarding Tobias Harris most of the game. And Tobias had 12 points in 33 minutes, 5 for 15, 0 for 4 from 3. 2 rebounds. 2 rebounds. Collins, thank you. John Collins, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying, because Tobias against the Raptors had 3 points in 36 minutes. Against the Bucks, he had 9 points in 35 minutes. Yeah, when he gets mismatches against smaller players, he can score points, but does it really help your team that much? No, it doesn't. He plays length and athleticism again. He's a no-show. It's the rebounds that are really standing out to me because rebounding is 100% effort. And again, I saw it in this game. I saw it in this game again. Our rebounding is embarrassing. We are 29th in the NBA in rebounding. And rebounding is attention to detail, sticking to fundamentals, but it's effort. It's 100% effort. We got out-rebounded 54-45 in this game, but I feel like if I look at the offensive rebounds, I'm going to throw up. They had 11 offensive rebounds. Clint Capella had 5 offensive rebounds. Tobias Harris, 0. PJ Tucker, 0. Joel Embiid, 0. DeAnthony Melton, 4. That little hustler, him. Love that kid. Outside of DeAnthony Melton and Montrezl Harrell in the last 3 minutes of the game, and Shake Milton had 2 offensive rebounds, the starters outside of DeAnthony Melton had 1 offensive rebound in this game. George Niang, who played 23 minutes in the game, and played, I want to say, 8 minutes at backup center, had 1 rebound. 1. And that's not George Niang's fault. That's the coach's fault for putting him there, bro. This is the fattest guy in the NBA. He can't jump. He's built like a dude that eats cheeseburgers and drinks Bud Light down the street. How are we playing this guy at center in an NBA game? I'm not roasting George Niang. I'm roasting the coach for not knowing his personnel. George Niang had 1 rebound. 1. What is this decision making? Do you want to know how many rebounds Clint Capella had in this game? 20! 20! 20! 20! 20 rebounds! Let me tell you something. Onyeka Okongwu had 11 in 21 minutes. 11 rebounds. Clint Capella and Okongwu had 31 rebounds. How are we supposed to look forward to this team at all? When do you see this? You're 29th in the NBA in rebounding. You're playing George Niang at the backup center in the end of the third quarter. How are we supposed to look forward to this team? This ain't going to get better. They have nobody. They have no athleticism. None. Where's this team supposed to go? This is supposed to be a championship level team. They were so hyped up this offseason. Oh, we put the perfect roster together. We finally got veterans. We finally got veteran playoff level players. We finally did this. We got depth now. We got one of the deepest teams in the East. And this is actually what it looks like. The level of disappointment is unbelievable. I'd rather be back in the tanking years when I didn't expect them to be good. If they won 20 games, I was excited. Do you know what? I had so much fun watching that 10-72 team because I was putting on the TV, not expecting this team to even come close to winning a game, just so I could see Dish Smith throw no-look alley-oops to Nerlens Noel. Those were the days, man. Those were the days. That was fun. Being fed all of this excitement and buying in and being excited and then seeing this dog shit product on the floor is incredibly disappointing. That's all I have to say about it. Should we even go through the notes that I took during this game? Because it's depressing. The Hawks were not double teaming Embiid. We started the game running Joel Embiid outside the three-point line, initiating the offense through him like he's a 7'2" point guard, which has never made sense. We legitimately lost Game 7 to the Toronto Raptors on the Kawhi Leonard shot because Brett Brown was trying to do this. Brett Brown was not better. They're both bad. They both don't know what they're doing. They both have no idea who to put on the floor and when to put them on. They both don't run plays. They both had no game plan or strategy. They both look like they don't practice with the team. Remember Glenn Robinson III? When we traded for Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson III in the Brett Brown era. Glenn Robinson III was quoted saying, I was there for 2 weeks and didn't know my role on the team. And Jimmy Butler said he didn't know who was in charge. And now we're in the Doc Rivers era, and we're getting the same thing. It still looks like nobody knows their role on the team. It looks like they don't practice. They don't look like they practice. I'm convinced they don't practice. Connor, don't go there, bro, because Brett Brown played Al Horford and I can't even remember his name. Brett was obsessed with playing two centers. The one game Joel was out, he played Al Horford and another center at the same time. I mean, the guy chose Howell Neto over Trey Burke. They cut James Ennis and Trey Burke and kept Howell Neto. We went from a bad coach with no experience to a bad coach with a lot of experience. We went from a bad inexperienced coach to the most overrated coach I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, we start the game, Joel Embiid outside the three-point line for some reason. Has a couple of turnovers, looks bad. As soon as we stop running Embiid at the top of the key and get him under the rim, we go on an immediate 7-0 run. Paul Reed and Matisse Thybulle come off the bench first. And to me, this is Doc Rivers saying, okay, fine, you guys want Paul Reed, here you go. So, like, you can adjust on the fly. You can adjust your lineups based on matchups. So for 2 straight games, he plays Montrezl Harrell 0 minutes. I just don't get the extreme flip-flop. The extreme, you didn't play Paul Reed for the first 5 games of the season. Then all of a sudden, Paul Reed's the first off the bench and Montrez is iced on the bench. That tells me he doesn't know what he's doing. And he's like, okay, well, that didn't work. Then let's do this. And now I'm going to keep that guy completely on the bench. It's crazy. It does look like he's listening to the media. So Paul Reed and Thibault come off the bench first, and I like Paul Reed coming into the bench into the game first. But if he's not having a good game, and you need some fight and you need some effort, maybe put Montrezl Harrell in the game then. Nah. Paul Reed had 3 fouls in what felt like 3 seconds. That's been an issue of his for a long time. I feel like the refs were whistle happy in that first quarter. They were just, the one guy just wanted to be the star of the show. I mean, he was calling some. At one point, he called a touch foul on the opposite side of the floor. He wasn't even on that side of the floor. He was like at half court. He called it was crazy what that ref was doing. And I also feel like referees just see Paul Reed and they're like, who the hell is this guy? Foul because I don't know who this is. He comes in the game, tries to play defense for 8 seconds, and gets a foul call for laying a finger on somebody's hip. I swear Paul Reed does get the worst whistle in the NBA. Simone, what's up? Shout out to Simone with the sports. Check out her YouTube channel. Doc don't seem like he even care. I haven't seen his press conference. I'll have to watch it. I'll have to watch his press conference. Let's continue. Let's continue this misery of going down the notes that I took during this game. DeAnthony Melton was a fighter in this game. He had a nice crazy finish in the second quarter in traffic. Just one of the only players on the floor the whole game that was showing fight. Shake Milton comes in the game. He shot an open 3, and I think I said this before, but when did Shake Milton turn into Markelle Fultz 2.0? When did Shake Milton forget how to shoot a basketball? Anyway. Joel Embiid gets a rebound and tries to run the whole floor like he's Nikola Jokic or Ben Simmons in his prime, and he turns it over. Or he actually, I think he plowed into Clint Capella and got an offensive foul call. But just somebody tell Joel Embiid he's not a guard. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of it. Just rebound, give the ball to a guard, and go play center. Enough is enough. We've seen this for years now. I'm getting sick again. Got a dry, scratchy throat. I'm probably yelling about this team isn't helping me. Tobias Harris missed one of the most wide open layups I've ever seen a 6'9" human being miss. Just dunk the ball, bro. How are you that soft? Tobias drove to the rim. Nobody there, and he missed the layup. Third quarter, nobody can shoot. Tobias corner 3 hit the inside of the rim, the other inside of the rim, the back to the backboard, back off the rim. It was one of those where hit every part of the rim and the backboard and hit the rim again. It still didn't go in. Tyrese Maxey couldn't buy a bucket. All of the normal things that he does, the floaters, the drives and tries to go high off the glass, all the things he was trying to do, ball just wouldn't go in the hoop. He did make a little bit of a run in the third quarter that, kind of started to bring it back, but it wasn't much of anything. Yeah, Maxey hit a mid-range, and then he drove in and got a foul call in the third quarter. George Niang drove down the lane for a wide-open layup, and I was like, bro, it's a Thursday in November when teams are letting George Niang drive down the paint and shoot wide-open layups. The score was tied 55-55 with 6 minutes left in the third. And again, I didn't feel like we had a chance to win the game. I felt like the Hawks were missing wide-open shots all night. that's why they were having their worst game of the season, but we just are actually a bad team. So that's why we were still losing when the Hawks were having their worst game of the season. Then Doc, decides, hey, Joel got his 4th foul. I'm going to pull him out, but I'm not going to play a center who can rebound or even come close to guarding Clint Capella in his place. I'm going to play George Niang and PJ Tucker at the 4 and the 5, and they got absolutely smoked. I would say in that 5-minute sequence, Clint Capella had 4 offensive rebounds. It was crazy. Trae Young was getting everything he wanted, driving right down the middle of the lane and throwing alley-oops, no-look alley-oops, toying with it. He was playing Harlem Globetrotters out there. It was easy for him. He was pretty much laughing about it. And then the 4th quarter, the Hawks started to make shots finally. Like I said, they were just missing everything for 3. So they started to make shots. The Sixers did not start to make shots. The Hawks run away with it. They really ran away with it with back-to-back turnovers from Joel Embiid, where, again, he tries to initiate the offense from the top of the key, which is, I just can't believe we're still doing this. The Atlanta Hawks went on a 26-8 run. And the Sixers are suddenly down by 20. Montrezl Harrell comes in the game, injects some energy into this team. Gets some offensive rebounds, fights, cuts it all the way down to 8. The Sixers go on a 13-2 run when Montrezl Harrell, Matisse Thybulle, and Furkan Korkmaz came in the game. And then with 1 minute and 30 seconds left, Doc Rivers penalizes the players that came in and played hard and rewards the starters who gave you nothing for 3.5 quarters by putting the starters back in the game with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. What was he thinking right there? What was he thinking? Did he really think these starters who couldn't do anything this whole game, who showed such a lack of energy and disconnection and lack of interest, are going to suddenly play hard in this last minute and 30 seconds and win this game? That's crazy. That is crazy. Let's open up the phone line here. If you guys want to rant and rave and give me your thoughts and opinions. Host.
What's up, my dude?
The phone line is open for anybody that wants to call in, give your thoughts, give your angle. Tell me what you think is wrong with this team. We know it's Doc Rivers. I mean, we're repeating ourselves at this point. How many more times can we say it? Coach doesn't know how to coach. I agree. He's got to be fired soon, right? He's got to be fired soon, right? Like, that has to happen soon, right? Am I wrong about that? That has to happen soon, right? Glenn Rivers sounds like a preacher who just told a terrible sermon as fast as possible because he wants to hurry on to the Golden Corral and steal. Let me move this over here. I apologize for coughing into the microphone. All right, we got a couple people. Hitting up the phone lines. I'll try to keep you guys to 2 minutes on the phone calls, just so we can get to everybody that would like to voice their displeasure with this team. 402 people in here. Please hit the like button. Give me 402 likes. That would be greatly appreciated. Wireless caller on the line. Yo.
Eastwood, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? What's your name?
It's Rodney from East Miami.
Rodney. I don't know if I put your name in here before, man. Rodney. Thanks for calling, man. What's up?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna just say this, man. I'm not watching. I'm not watching the Sixers until they fire Rivers. Like I'm just at a like this is the point that I'm not gonna stress myself out watching this team that doesn't care. It seems like the players doesn't care. It just seems like he can't have control of these players because it's just like the energy, the lack of hustle, and the flow of the game is just like I can't waste my time watching this team that doesn't seem to care. So why should I care?
Right. And that's a good point because when people say they owe Doc Rivers $24 million and they're not going to, and I say that, and I say they're not going to fire him because they owe him this money. But, like you and a lot of other people I asked on Twitter earlier, has the interest in the Sixers gone down over the Philadelphia fan base because of their start to the season? And a lot of replies were just what you just said. Yeah, I'm not watching until Doc Rivers is fired. So there's going to be a lot less people that pay money and travel and waste their time going into the arena, right?
Exactly. It's just like I wasn't expecting the Flyers to be a better team than the Sixers. Like that's I'd rather go to a Flyers game, and I don't even watch hockey like that. I'd rather go to a Flyers game right now than the Sixers.
I don't watch hockey at all, but I'm about to start watching it and doing post-game live.
Exactly. Like this is embarrassing, man. This is freaking embarrassing. Like I can't. Like I love basketball. Listen. I will continue to watch basketball, but not going to watch the Sixers if this continues and Rivers is continued to be the coach. Like I can't do it. I just can't, man.
Yeah,
I can't.
It's getting to that point. It's getting to that point where a lot of people are absolutely done watching this team until he's gone because it's just Groundhog Day. Why would I watch this when I know what's going to happen? There's no way this is going to end any differently than it did last season. Nothing is showing me that anything is going to be any different, so why would I waste my time watching it? I completely agree with that, and a lot of people are starting to feel that way.
Like it's like it just seems like Rivers doesn't care. It's just like if I'm getting the energy that the coach doesn't care, it's like it's at a point that we need a new voice, man. I mean, we see it with the Phillies, it's like you gotta make a listen. The season is not over. It's not even half the season. You gotta make a change. You have to.
Yeah, you have to. The Brooklyn Nets fired Steve Nash, and all of a sudden Ben Simmons is coming off the bench. He's not.
Exactly.
Their new coach isn't trying to run Nicholas Claxton and Ben Simmons together because it didn't make sense. So you change the coach, and all of a sudden the lineup is different, and the team looks better. So yeah, we need a new energy. We need a new voice. I completely agree.
And you said it right. By us getting rid of Charles Bassey, I knew it from the start. I might watch somebody pick him up and play him like he's supposed to be played.
Greg Popovich, man. Greg Popovich, of all people. Yeah, Rodney, thanks for calling, man. I appreciate it.
All right, take care, man.
All right, man. Don't stress yourself out watching this team. Stop watching. Stop watching. Anybody that's stressed out watching this team, just stop watching. It does get to the point where I just start laughing, though. Like, you know what I mean? It's stressful at first, and then you're just like, all right, this is hilarious. I wasn't actually that stressed out watching this game because I knew this was going to be a terrible game. I knew the young, fast, athletic Atlanta Hawks, who are 7th in the entire NBA in rebounding and points per game, were going to kill us because how could we compete? It's like a 40 and over team versus a bunch of 25-year-olds. We can't compete with that. Just makes perfect sense. Call from Haddon Heights, New Jersey. What's going on?
Yo, Wood. How's it going, brother?
Outside of this basketball team, I'm doing great, but
I'm glad you're not sick anymore. But this game tonight, I didn't get the chance to tune in, so I appreciate kind of the rundown you gave.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if I was in the position of these guys, which is hard to put yourself in that position. None of us have been NBA players. It just seems like it would be really mentally draining. And these guys right now, they just not having any fun. And when you look at like if you look at the Eastern Conference, if I pull up the standings here real quick, if you take a team like Milwaukee, Cleveland, Boston, Atlanta, Toronto, Chicago. I don't know if any of those teams, fan bases, would be more angry at them if they got out in the second rounds than the Sixers fan base. Like, what I'm saying is the Sixers have this set of expectations that they've had on them for years, and they haven't had a chance to really spend much time growing and operating where they're kind of playing on house money and they're just out there having fun. Like the Grizzlies, they're a team that legitimately could compete for a championship this year, but nobody's pissed at them if they don't win this year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, like, these guys, they're kind of in this bind right now, it seems like.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think a lot of them are bad fits, and I think a lot of players are being used wrong. I think I always go back to what Paul George said about Doc Rivers when he was in LA. He said he was trying to use me like JJ Redick, and that's not my game. So I think and when players know what they're good at and know what they're capable of, but they feel like they're not getting the opportunity, or they're being used wrong, or they're being put in the wrong positions, they start to get frustrated, and they start to say, fuck it, I'm not trying because shit sucks. That's very possible that the players are just frustrated at the roster construction or their role or whatever, and they're not giving the effort.
Yeah, you make a good point, because when I've been very disheartened to see that even Maxey has shown some real lack of effort, defensively. I know he's not this defensive stud, but I thought he would really bring at least the energy on the defensive side more consistently this year. And they need to be playing at a higher pace if they're going to play to Maxey's strengths. And if he's going to be this star, you could make the argument they shouldn't have to, cater to him or something. But even a guy like Steph Curry isn't the best version of himself unless the team is, operating him and using him in this variety of ways. And I think that, Embiid and Harden are both kind of past the point in their careers where they're eager to be hurrying down the floor to get a bucket 6 seconds into the shot clock.
It's tough. It's a tough fit all the way around with a lot of guys, man. So, I want Doc Rivers up out of here because I think the energy needs to change, and I think you need a culture change. You need a different voice. But also this what Daryl Morey did is very questionable also, because the people that were like, oh my God, we signed a bunch of 40-year-olds, we're screwed. They're looking like they were right.
Yeah, man. You're not wrong there. Well, I appreciate you taking the call. You're making some really valid points here. So,
thanks, buddy.
Keep spitting the truth, and hopefully we get Doc out of here soon.
All right, man. Later. Yeah, get him up out of here, man. Because, again, what's the point? What's the point of not firing Doc Rivers right now? Why would anybody think this is going to change? Why would Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, Josh Harris, why would anybody think this is going to change? What could change about it? And when the players are showing lack of effort, Tobias Harris finished this game with 2 rebounds. A 6'8" NBA player in 33 minutes finished this game with 2 rebounds. When your players are showing a lack of effort, the only thing you can point to is the culture, what's being instilled in them, what's being ran through their minds every day, and it comes back to the coach. People think, oh, these are NBA players, they should just show up and play. They still have to be disciplined. They still have to be, you still have to do repetition. You still have to train the right way. Call from Edmonton. What's going on?
What's up, boss?
How's it going, man? What's your name?
Great Jolly from Edmonton, AB, Canada.
You're from Gonda?
Canada.
Oh, Canada. Okay,
Up
Canada.
north.
What's up, man?
Up north. Yeah, my only issue is Matisse. Doc can't even play him. I don't get it. It's ridiculous. Watched the past few games, and he's been getting minutes now, but you have one of the best perimeter defenders, and you refuse to play him on Trae or DeJounte all game.
Exactly, yes.
Pretty funny game to watch for this.
Yeah, he did the same thing against the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum went for 70 combined points against us, and he didn't play Matisse Thybulle. Yep.
You got to live with what Matisse does on the offense, and at least he's willing. I've watched the 2 games. He's willing to at least drive the ball, take threes. You got to live with that, right? You're not going to have guys that all dribble and score 30.
Yeah, and he's been shooting threes. You know, I mean, he hasn't looked like an elite 3-point shooter or anything like that, but he hasn't been like reluctant to shoot. He's been shooting them when he's open. So yeah, I think he deserves the minutes. I agree.
Yeah. Get him out of here.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for calling from Canada, man. Shout out to Canada.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's weird. I thought Doc Rivers was supposed to be a defensive-minded coach anyway. You know, I'm really seeing an obsession with offensive players and basically refusing to play defensive players. We bullied him into playing Paul Reed, but really he just thinks, oh, I need shooters out there. I need shooters, so he plays George Niang at the 5. And he gets smoked on the glass, and he just gets smoked defensively, and it's like you have to balance it, right? You have to say, I need Matisse Thybulle out there, and then we'll see what happens. I don't know, man. I don't know. My guy, Jarrett Newsom on the line, man. What's going on?
What's up, bro?
How
you doing, man? Hey, man, it's time, man. I'm in agreement totally with you, and this is embarrassing to me. As a Philly team, the one thing we can pride ourselves on is intensity. I look at this team, man, and the most intensity I saw when Montrezl Harrell came out there, and he was hot when they took him out of the game. Hot.
Was he mad? I didn't see him.
He was hot, bro. I watched it on the sidelines. He was hot when they took him out of the game.
Right,
because he knew he was the only one.
Right.
What happened to all the dogs that we said we had? What, are they keeping them on a chain or something? What is going on with these people, man?
They're still in the pound.
I don't understand this. And like I said, bro, all of this starts with the coach, man.
Yeah.
If you can't motivate your players to play, who else is it on?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Yeah, and it is crazy. It is crazy that Montrez came in and injected energy and led that run, cut it down to 8 points. He's the only player the whole night that showed that fight. And Doc took him out of the game. He took him out. Those starters did not deserve. They didn't deserve to come back in the game.
They sure didn't. And he took that charge right in the chest. Come on, man. And you bring the starters back in this game? Man, that's a slap in the face.
The coach is just his decision making keeps getting more and more confusing, man. It really does.
Man, I'm telling you, bro. I'm on a campaign. When I see a Sixer game, I'm saying Sam Cassell. Every time I watch a Sixer game, I can't give up on them, man. I've been watching them since '82, the last time they won a championship. We talked about it many times, man.
You got to see one. I didn't get to see one. I started watching in '95. They drafted Iverson. That was a fun 10 years. I had a lot of fun watching that, but they didn't put anyone around him. Same way they're doing with Joel Embiid right now.
But remember, we talked about it too. Man, we got to the point where we was like, look, man, Joel, get out of here, man. You want a championship, you're going to have to leave here. Because it's starting to look like that, bro. They are not utilizing this man's talents correctly. Ben Simmons not out there no more. Why is he initiating offense?
I don't know, man. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Ridiculous, man. A 7-foot point guard.
Hey, bro, I appreciate you calling every single time, man. This is frustrating, but I'm right with you. I'm gonna watch the next game. It's just in me. It's just who I am, man. So let's do it.
Yeah. We I'm gonna reciprocate that because I got to do the same thing, man. All right, bro. It's always cool to holler at you, Eastwood. Be cool, man.
Yeah, man. Have a good night. Yeah, it is what it is, man. Broadcasters mentioned Harrell was upset. So now your players are getting mad at your coaching decisions. He's already lost the locker room. He already lost his team. You can just tell by the body language and the lack of effort and the lack of giving a shit that you see on the court. But now the players are starting to get frustrated with his decisions. It's over, bro. We got to end this now. I put out the Fire Glenn t-shirt. Shout out to everybody that purchased one. I appreciate the support, but I honestly think he's going to get fired before they even get here. I didn't even get mine in the mail yet, and he's going to get fired before I even get the shirt But it's going to be Fire Glenn forever, so I'm going to wear the shirt forever because who cares? Whatever. DC says, wish we had Donovan Mitchell. Hey, look, man. I said this offseason, the only player I would trade Tyrese Maxey for is Donovan Mitchell. And I said that because, people got mad at me when I said that. People were like, how could you say that? Donovan Mitchell's an inefficient ball hog, volume shooter, doesn't make his team better, on and on and on and on and on. And I said, I would trade Tyrese Maxey for Donovan Mitchell because Donovan Mitchell's 26 years old and averaged 27 points per game last season. Donovan Mitchell is exactly what you want Tyrese Maxey to be at 26 years old. And I think Tyrese Maxey can be that. So I'm not mad at keeping Tyrese Maxey. I think he can be that. He's just not going to be that right now. He's 22. But I think Tyrese Maxey can grow into what Donovan Mitchell grew into. I was just saying you could fast forward Tyrese Maxey 5 years by trading him for Donovan Mitchell. That's all I was saying. And I was damn right about it. Another caller on the line, and then I'm going to get up out of here and forget that the 76ers even exist this season, man. What's going on?
Hey, hello.
How's it going? What's up?
Fuck you, you stupid bearded fucker, faggot.
Wow. That's a good way to end the show, man. Hey, you won't come to my house and say that to my face. I know that damn well. You're going to call the show and do that? Really? That's what you're going to do, bro? Really? Imagine calling a sport. You sounded about 35 years old, too, man. How do you sound that old and act like a 10-year-old? You really wasted your time watching and listening to this show and you dialed the number to say that? I'm glad I cut that off halfway through that last word that was coming out of his mouth because it wouldn't have been good for the YouTube bots. I should have saved that. I got to find that last call and block him. What a loser. Anyway, hey, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Sixers Postgame Live. This has been the 2022 Philadelphia 76ers therapy session. Yeah. That was Rivers' dad. Thanks for tuning in, man. There will be an exclusive video tomorrow morning on the Patreon, patreon.com/runitbackphilly. And I'll post some clips from this show tomorrow on the channel. Other than that, man, you guys continue to not be frauds. Continue to not be fanboys. And continue to never, ever, ever have any intros. I don't even know what that means.